Welcome to Wrong Time Watch. My name is Kevin, and today we're looking at two different micro brand GMT watches. Now, the Zelos, at least with the malachite dial here, this special edition is a little more than 1.5 times the price of the Borealis. Looking at $415 for the Borealis, and looking at $650 for the Zelos Mako GMT. This is the Timekeepers Special Edition. Timekeepers is the Zelos Facebook group, and this has a malachite dial. A very cool looking green stone. I don't think it's a gemstone, but it's a mineral for sure. It's a mineral dial. Then we have the ceramic bezel insert. Sapphire crystal, of course. The Borealis also has a sapphire crystal, and it has a sapphire bezel insert. This one is the Pepsi colorway. We have the blue with the red, and it looks similar to a Blancpain 50 Fathoms. I really like the bezel on this one. So this is what's called an office GMT. It's not a true GMT. The Zelos is a true GMT. So the movement in this watch is the Seiko NH34 movement. And the movement in this watch is the Miyota 9075 movement. 6 beats per second for the Borealis, 8 beats per second on the Zelos, 41 hours of power reserve, and 42 hours of power reserve. So what is a true GMT? Well, with a true GMT, you adjust the local time. So this hour hand will move independently of the rest of the hands. So unscrew the crown. First position, we're in hand winding, so we're winding up that movement. Next, click out. This hour hand will move. I can move it forwards and backwards. So the downside to this is you cannot adjust the date independently, but you can cycle through the hours here pretty quickly to cycle over that date. Then pulling the crown all the way out, we will set the GMT and local time. But you really wouldn't have to set that unless you're going into daylight savings or the watch is running out of power reserve. So that's the nice thing about this. You don't have to mess with the home time when you land in a different country or cross a time zone. You can just change that hour hand. On the other hand, the Borealis is the office GMT. So unscrew the crown. First click out, we're in hand winding. Pull it out again, and then we'll adjust this GMT hand independently. You can see the hour hand is still moving, or the second hand is still moving, so we're not in hacking. So I'm turning the crown counterclockwise, and that's changing the date, but the dial's not cut out for a date, so you don't see that. So I turn it clockwise, I'll move that GMT hand. There we go. Screw that crown back down. So yes, both watches do have screw down crown. They're both signed. The Z here, the logo on the Zelos is loomed, so that's a loomed signed crown. They're both rated to 300 meters of water resistance. They both have brushed and polished cases. The Zelos does, however, have quick release spring bars, and it has a milled clasp with dual pushers that is milled there as well, and this has on-the-fly adjustment. Well, you still need to take the watch off wrist, but you can just pull this out and slide it out and pull it out and push it in. So very similar to the T-Fit clasp on the Tudor. My Tudor Ranger has a T-Fit clasp, so very nice system there. Solid end links, solid links, held in place with screw pins. You can see it is a mix of brushed and polished surfaces here. I do like that polished chamfered edge. So on the Borealis, we do get drilled lugs. The Zelos does not have drilled lugs. Solid end links, solid links, held in place with screw pins. Now this one does have a solid case back. So does the Zelos. I didn't show you that. Maybe you already saw it, but solid engraved case back there. And same thing with the Borealis, the solid engraved case back. This portion of the clasp is milled. Now this is held in place by a friction fit, and then does have a safety clasp, so it is held in place. It's kind of an old system with that friction fit there. For micro adjust, this portion of the clasp is stamped. And I think I already mentioned, but it does have screw pins. And again, a brushed and polished bracelet as well. So let me get this on wrist. Actually, you know what? Let's talk about the specs. So 48.5 lug to lug. These are female end links, so that's the true lug to lug. 41.5 diameter. 14.3 thick. So it is a bit thick, and that's just straight up and down slab-sided watch, so it shows its thickness. 20 millimeter lug width, and this bracelet does taper down to 18 millimeter. Now size for my 6.5 inch wrist, it weighs in at 161 grams. 6.9 millimeter crown. Okay, now with the Zelos, we have these male end links, so measuring the lug to lug from the male center links for the end links here, 52.5 millimeter. Just the case itself is 46.3, so smaller lug to lug on this than the Borealis on the case. 40 millimeter diameter, so it is a smaller diameter watch as well. This is thicker though, it's 16 millimeter thick. That crystal is not helping in the thickness department there. It probably adds 2 to 3 millimeters of thickness alone. But this watch kind of hides the thickness a little bit more. It is a bit of a slab-sided case, but then the bezel comes in. But it's still a thick watch. You can't get around the numbers there. 16 millimeter thick, 20 millimeter lug width, and this bracelet does taper down to 18 millimeter. 6.3 millimeter signed loomed crown. And the size for my 6.5 inch wrist, it weighs in at 168 grams, so 7 grams heavier than the Borealis. You really can't tell by just feeling by hand here. They feel about the same weight. They're both fairly heavy watches. So let's get the Zelos on wrist first, and then we'll check out the loom towards the end of the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Just putting this on wrist. Again, the Z on here is kind of sharp. It has some sharp edges. The circle itself is not bad, but that Z logo there does have some sharp edges. But nice looking polished clasp here. Oh, another thing I didn't mention, this has a 48 click bi-directional bezel. The Borealis just has a 120 click unidirectional bezel, so that's not a true GMT bezel. It's just a diver bezel with the GMT scale. And this thing is loud. Hopefully you can hear that. One more click. So another positive for the Zelos over the Borealis. Let me know which watch you prefer. I'm curious to hear your opinion. It's a great looking watch. Just wish it wasn't so thick. I really like the look of these applied indices, these applied gilt indices. Definitely gives some dimension to the dial here. Again, that dial is just gorgeous. Okay, on to the Borealis. Now that 1.5 mm difference in diameter I really can't tell. I can definitely tell the thickness of both of these watches. I prefer a thinner watch over a thicker watch, so I really don't see these staying in my collection all that long. Alright, let's move on to the loom. Well, the Borealis is on the left and Zelos is on the right, of course. Now, cool thing about the Zelos is the bezel insert and the GMT hand and the second hand have the same blue loom, and then the indices hour hand and minute hand have the green lume. Very nice lume on the Zelos. As far as which one's brighter, I would say the green lume on the Zelos is a little bit brighter than the blue lume on the Borealis. But the lume is great on both of these watches. So if lume is your very important to you, then I think you'd be happy with either of these watches. Alright, that will conclude this video. As always, thank you for your time and thank you for watching.